it's not really a grand rising. It's actually afternoon, but we of course have to move the clocks an hour to lie to ourselves about what time it is. So, yeah, whatever. Grand rising, because I like saying grand rising. So, as somebody who has been super conscious since 2012 about my empathic, intuitive, and healing side of things that I do that have been active since 2012. The world, as it filters in through my world, but the world in the existential sense of Dasein. If you're following me at all, you will know that from Heidegger, which I am reading and getting through, Being in Time by Martin Heidegger. So anyway, this existential sense of existing in the world, being in the world. That world, 2012 had revealed to me, the illness, if you will. That the world was an entity and that the world was sick, and that sickness is really just how human beings treat each other, and how inconsiderate we are about how we feel about everybody's things, right? It's like the earth, the issue is not that the earth is being destroyed by man's industry. If that were true, then the rainforest would have been knocked out forever ago, right? It grows back. It's just a question of, do we allow it to grow back, right? Because that's how we operate as a quote-unquote cancer, is if we destroy and we do not allow the regenerative principle to reclaim, right? Which is part and parcel of what we actually destroy for, because new things can grow. We don't want to destroy everything because we want to have elder things. Not elder things, Lovecraft, but we want to have you want to have, like, there's an antique that you keep around. There's a tree that you don't want to chop down. Sometimes it's for utility purposes, but sometimes it's the animist principle of the thing. It holds a story. It has a psychic effect on the beholder, on the holder, even the beholder and the holder, which in Heidegger's sense is the difference between present in hand and present at hand. The car is present in hand. I'm wielding it at the moment. It is absolutely an aspect of me right now, and I an aspect of it towards somebody looking from the outside in. The ghost in the machine, as they say. Rev Radio gets the reference. But anyway, so I had figured out, like, this really functional diagnosis that I could deal with what the condition of the world was, and how I was going to do things with it. The condition of the world insofar as it was treating others and treating me, and I cared about how it was treating others, because if I'm seeing it in my world, and deep down inside I know it ain't right, even though I don't know what's going on deep down inside within them, I at least have to express because I am witness to it. You're doing it right in front of me. You chose to do that right in front of me. You chose to demonstrate, to reveal this right in front of me. Perhaps you let in this little part of your world, your Dasein, to me, right? Like, I just recently was reading the chapters in Being in Time about the state of the other in creating this world, which is the mirror of your Dasein. And then when your Dasein meets itself in the world, it often surrenders to it. And then I got into this whole thing about the reptilian brain, the whole thing about me and my whatever, right? So, because I have a sense of standing against the world, more so, it gives me a lot of perspective looking at it as an outsider would. All right, fine. It's New Year's. I'll turn on red. See, and you honked at me, you impatient cunt, and the light just turned green. Fuck you. I'm an Aries, and I'm the patient one. Maybe you're more Aries than me. And that's okay. You can be more Aries than me because you're going to be a colossal fuck up, and I'm going to laugh because I've been there. But anyway, I'm like a Gemini in my progression chart now anyway, or some bullshit. I don't know. 44 days from my birth. That's where I'm at. I think I'm Gemini. But anywho. Well, it will be 44 days. It's 43 days right now. I'm pretty sure I'm still a Gemini. I still got some time before I know what cancers are going through, and then I can write all sorts of emotional letters to my Cancerian friends that I pissed off saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I know you can't forgive me because you're a Cancerian cunt, but now I get it." Anyway, this is my internal astrology joke world, because this is all part and parcel of my observations of the health levels of the world, especially as in America and cancers. So, God, that's an incredibly old car. Anyway. It's not even incredibly old, it's just, I don't know, it's like a 1970s thing. But anyway, it's not like a muscle car. It's like a sedan of its time. But anyway. So I think that the world is healing a bit. I can see it. There's a strong counter culture that it's a very different kind of counterculture, because there's the party that the counterculture wants to have, and then there's also the tradition that this counterculture wants to have. This counterculture is both simultaneously erecting family values, having a sense of limitations and orders and rules or whatever, but then it really, really, really wants to have genuine, authentic, exciting fun, and it's not grounded in the morality police, but it is operating off of basic human decency, basic, like, fucking obvious how we treat each other under various circumstances, how we treat ourselves, right? That can be very frustrating if you're in the cult of Dionysus. That can be incredibly frustrating if you're a one cult kind of guy, right? Shout out Lady Babylon, I'm talking to you. I just think that you don't realize the party that's actually going on over here, and no, it's not a Dionysian party, but not everything needs to be Dionysus, my friend. It's okay. We'll both hunt pedophiles together, I promise. We might have a few arguments about the LGBTQ, but they're welcome human souls in my home. But anyway. So, right now, because of the nature of what was done to those who didn't want to level up in 2020, right? There was a very particular regression process that they were put through, right? So there's a whole lot that got pushed inside, right? What happened to them is that it's part of the backfiring that was the reason why, although there's a lot of things that are fucked up on the other side of 2021, that between these 2 years of the concept of how one ought to live their life just for the sake of health and freedom. That people of that particular attitude, they had to push that world inside in their denialism, right? And so that's festering with a fuck you, everything's wrong with everything because of all you fucking freedom-loving people, and the fact that 2020 happened and you offended me on all physiological levels, or it's some crazy thing like that, right? It's just like it's particular to the individual, but it's got basic, like predictable tropes, because we're just used to it as something that everybody collectively did on the outside that repressed their individual issues to the inside. And like, this is literally a time where every like Jungian psychologist on the planet just fucking rushed to their closet and put on their tights and put on their cape and said, I know how to solve your fucking problems, right? This is what happened in 2020. It's like, oh, shadow work all around. Oh, look at all this shadow work. Oh, the persona as a mask. Wow. Right? And so that kind of happened to fucking everybody. And, it's just like, I still got more Jung to read, but my God, am I like overloaded with, every fucking week somebody's got a new spin on the same, and then Carl Jung said about the collective unconscious. I'm just like, every other fucking like week there's a video like this. When Jung talked about man and his symbols. I'm kind of making fun of one guy in particular he does excellent work, but he's also an example of somebody who's just like, all right, he's gonna quote Jung in this video. Yep, there it is. There's the Jung quote. It's just like, why didn't nobody quote Heidegger? I'm gonna quote Heidegger now. I think Heidegger. I think Heidegger is the way to quote. All right, because Jung touches upon things because the philosophical aspect of his psychology, epistemology, right? But for the most part, he's just kind of working with the abstractions and trying to help mankind navigate the abstractions of their mind, because the right hand path only life that we had been living through the 19th and early 20th century was deeply psychologically constricting and causing all sorts of weird little mental health issues, becoming common thread in the collective, which embedded all of the foundational ideas about science and state and social constructs that were very, very foundational being chipped away at by the time the late 1950s were coming about, because like the beatniks were starting to kind of do this kind of attitude and creating an acceptable kind of counterculture, right? They were trying to make an acceptable counterculture, like they're beatnik, they're off the beat of regular people, but that was it. Like they weren't necessarily like hippies or nothing, right? They there was maybe some drug use. They were kind of like early libertarians, like early little Frank Zappas before they stopped getting haircuts, right? That's kind of like what a beatnik was, right? So that's another example of how the shifting mental health of the country changed, and so that mental health state, I think, is also coincides with an age or a world, right? I mentioned earlier the 19th century. When I say the 19th century, we can get all sorts of visualized ideas. We're talking about the Victorian period or the late Victorian period, and how that was in Western civilization as a whole, because of the relationships that were amending somewhat between the United States and the UK at the time. And of course, Britain still was an empire at that time. And we were just embedding ourselves with our industrialists here in our side of the states, right? And like these things happen because of the healthy dialogue between peoples that speak a common tongue, right? It must have been kind of interesting, being a different country, but yet still being kind of the same country at the same time. And language is a big part of that, because you're able to keep up with your former bosses, with your former kindred or your former rulers or whatever, unless you're an immigrant, right? And as the immigration kept coming through, there's, now America just doesn't like there's just no fucking relationship other than being a bitch who wants to have a fucking relationship with the crown, right? That's all you're looking at. So now everything is kind of an internal healing. It's kind of why I feel so importantly about putting stuff out, regardless of getting, too much feedback or whatever. I mean, I need that for me, but it's just like, I know that from time to time I'm touching on a depth of level for some of you guys tuning in where there's nothing to say there, or it's too personal to tell. You wouldn't know how to explain it, but I just give you the clue you've been looking for, right? That clue that just sets an issue in your head right. Situation, but because you understand the symbolism when I say a word that has a particular concept that you grasp surrounding it happen for you. Now you have that aha moment, and I, as an Asclepian force of healing, have delivered that for you. That's how shamanism's basically supposed to work, which is a lot different than being an actual analytical psychologist and just sitting there and, yes, we've come up with a new term, and now that we've had this new term created, that's what will help you, is telling you this new term. You are neurodivergent. It's like all you've done is not done anything to them at all except give them some technobabble to put them into a transhumanist state of mind by inventing the term neurodivergent. And all you've done is given them a sense of a place in this world, in your world, your little atheist, materialist, reductionist, quantify everything fucking soulless, spiritless world. Oh, it's not that right now. But you keep stripping away. You keep stripping away at it. You keep denying the human side of the fucking perception of the experience. And now somebody's living in Tron universe. And they're standing right next to me and I'm living in the fucking woods. That's the weird fucking way that all of this works. Hey, Bane Bear. I was on a good roll with this one. I highly recommend that you check it out from the jump street. So anybody, anyway, everybody, I want you to have a happy new year. Maybe I'll be on the computer or something later. I don't know. I may want to go to the city tonight and enjoy like a beer, something. I don't know. Maybe there'll be women. I don't know. I'll catch you guys later.